introduce everybody on the dais. Furthest to my left, we have Linda Marquis, who is running for a vacant seat in Department B as in boy. Joe Scalia, who is running for that same seat in B as in boy. Next to him, we have Jack Howard, who is running for the seat C as in cat, which is also a vacant seat. And then Rebecca Burton, furthest to my right, who is also running for the vacant seat in Department C as in cat. I think you are already given some information regarding AAG, although I think most of you have interviewed with us before. Again, we'll be releasing our endorsements probably in about 3 weeks. We do have an event coming up on September 13th, for which we have invitations if you have not received them yet. But that event is our annual awards banquet. It's going to be attended by approximately 350 to 400 people. We're not positive of the head count yet, but obviously that's going to take up a lot of our time between now and then. So we'll probably get together, have our final weekend of makeup interviews on the 6th, and then finally release our endorsements probably the week after, on sometime the week of the 20th or 22nd, I should say, of September. That having been said, enough about us. Starting furthest from my left, Linda, why have you decided to run for this particular department at this particular time? And obviously we'll allow everyone to answer that question.
It was an open seat first, and also because after working in family court, criminal courts for so long, you start to see patterns in family dynamics and people who might become repeat clients or families that are in that criminal system that have been in that criminal system for generations. You start to realize that we have a lot of great programs in the criminal system. Drug courts, diversionary courts, boot camps, all kinds of things designed to help those individuals. But the most important time and the most impact you can make on that family is when they're juveniles, or when there's an abuse and neglect case, or where there's a divorce, when that family's in crisis. Although the change in that family or the change in the community won't happen quickly, and it's hard to measure, I believe that's the most important time to make an impact in the lives of people in our community, and that's why I ran for community court.
Joe.
I have literally handled thousands of family court cases. There is no attorney in Las Vegas, I will say this unequivocally, who has handled more family court cases than I have. And family court cases are extremely important. Being in criminal law, I've done that too. I've handled thousands of criminal law cases, handled thousands of bankruptcy cases. Family court is its own animal. And I'm running for one very simple reason. After handling so many of them over so many years, I have the skill, I have the talent, I have the ability to get these cases on track and get these cases through the system as quickly as possible. These cases are really important because you're dealing with people's children, dealing with their houses, their property, their businesses, their lives. And an inexperienced judge, and I've seen this, who makes a bad decision can make an error which few people are unlikely to ever recover from. And if you can get this family through that process quickly and efficiently, and they understand what's going on, the divorce process, the family law process doesn't have to be devastating, doesn't have to be disabling, and I have the skill that it takes to get these cases through the system, period.
Okay. Jack.
Well, since I last spoke with you folks, the good news is I got married in June.
Congratulations.
We're still waiting on the honeymoon. But I'm going to mimic what Joe says. I have been practicing here since '75. I've been a prosecutor, been in private practice, been a public defender. I've been a judge in every single department of family court. There are 5 departments. There's juvenile, there's guardianship, there's probate, there's child support, and there's TPO. When a judge takes a bench, the judge has to have 2 things: real life experience and legal experience. I'm 66, and I have a lot of real life experience. I've been through, unfortunately, a divorce, and I know personally and professionally how devastating that can be. I love my children so much that I co-parent with my ex, and my children have come out amazing. I have also handled thousands of cases, from criminal cases to family law cases. over the last number of years, the primary focus of my practice has switched to family law. And so I am a huge advocate of changes in family law. I believe family law should probably institute a veterans court. Why? Because veterans bring different issues to the table. Veterans have a higher incidence of domestic violence, etc. So I have to bring my real life and my legal experiences to bear. Rebecca and I were both on the Family Law Council. It's an organization of lawyers throughout the state and judges. I paid my dues. I did pro bono work before there was pro bono. I've been on the fee dispute committee. I volunteered thousands of hours as the head of an adoption agency. I've been a foster parent of 2 kids whose mom was in jail. Been there, done that, and I want to give back to the community for everything it's given me.
Okay. And Rebecca.
Hi. Well, I went to law school. I knew I wanted to practice family law, and that's what I've done for almost 22 years. This month will be 22 years. So I haven't been around quite as long as Jack, but I've been around a very long time. All of it, 100% of it devoted to the practice of family law. I love family law. It's my thing. It's my passion. It's what I do. I've become certified by the State Bar of Nevada as a family law specialist. The specialist has not been around for a really long time, and I'm one of the only 33 such folks in the whole state who become certified as a family law specialist. I had to take a special bar exam to get there. Had to be recommended by peers, by family court judges. Have to take a certain number of continuing legal education credits. Most attorneys have to take 10 every year to maintain a specialty. You have to take, well, it was 18 to get it and 15 every year thereafter. I don't even count because I always take way more than even the 15 that we wanted to take, because I really think family law should be practiced well. It's a difficult field, I think. It is. We have probably over 60% of our litigants are representing themselves. So I think the person on the bench ought to know family law inside and out, upside down, before they get there, because we're not going to have 2 people we're not going to have 2 attorneys feeding the law to the judge. We're going to have 2 clueless people standing there saying, please help us. And even when they don't have anything much to argue about in the way of maybe property, they may have some really complicated jurisdictional issues and things of that sort. So I do agree with what also has been said by Mr. Scalia, that if it's, making wrong decisions can really ruin a family for a very long time. It can be really devastating. I've hand-walked people through the family court many times because it's what I do. I really enjoy it. I think that I've gotten kind of a real knack for getting people to focus on what's important for example, their children or things, and trying to put the emotions aside and getting people to kind of let go of the past and to move forward in a positive way. I've served on many committees in family law to improve it. Child Witness Committee currently. I'm on the Outsourced Mediation Board, and I continue to want to serve the community with the good practice of family law, and that's why I want to be judge.
Rebecca, you touched on something that is a significant issue in the family courts, and obviously everyone will have an opportunity to answer this as well. But that being the fact that 60% of people represent themselves. That presents difficulties for the court, for the other litigants. If there's another attorney involved, that's always, and I'm sure everyone everyone in front of us has been through the situation where they're going up against someone who's representing themselves. What ideas do you have to improve upon the self-help center, or just to make it easier for these proper person litigants to represent themselves and their interests in the family court system?
Education and training, having different courses or things that people can take. I know that one of our family court judges has created a video for people to look at who are representing themselves. The self-help center is a step in the right direction, at least having the kind of form documents where people can check boxes and things. But I think there also there's a Ask a Lawyer program where you can go in and get some information from judges. I mean, not from judges, I'm sorry, from practicing family law attorneys who volunteer their time. And we have pro bono counsel that will also have, I've done an enormous amount of that work. I do, we're doing what we can. Again, I think education is probably really the key in providing more avenues where pro per litigants can try to figure out how they're supposed to present themselves in the system, and encouragement of more attorneys to do pro bono work, as well as continuing to expand mediation. On the Outsourced Mediation Committee, there's been a great resistance, it seems to me, with the judges in kind of automatically turning at least to offer it to the litigants and to say, hey, there's another way to do this. You don't have to fight tooth and nail and spend an enormous amount of money on attorneys and get an uncertain result from the judge. You can take this in your hands and control it by doing mediation. And I think that's a really important thing to kind of press upon people and continue to press and get the judges to hopefully agree that should be something that should be automatic. In every case, at least offering it.
Okay. Jack, how do we minimize the pro pers or the issues?
Here's what the deal is. People need a voice in what happens to their families and their children. As you know, John, when the arbitration program started years ago, it was the way to resolve cases with more efficiency and less cost to litigants. We could transfer some of that concept to the family court. I would agree with Rebecca. The mediation needs to be much more effective, but the Family Mediation Center is overloaded. So what we need to do is give the Family Mediation Center or mediators more time with these litigants. Because when the litigants talk to a neutral, somebody who doesn't have a dog in the fight, and they can explain to the litigants, hey, he's going to get Father's Day, you're going to get Mother's Day, and you're going to divide up the holidays. So you take this huge pie and you carve it up, so what the judge really needs to consider at trial or hearing is much more narrow. I think everybody would agree with me. The senior settlement program has been extremely successful. The private attorneys who take settlement cases, and I've taken them, has been extremely successful. So whether they're unrepresented or represented, we need to effectuate other remedies to get the people through the system and save the judge's time to hear the really critical parts of the case. That's my view.
Yeah.
Very specific answers. When I'm elected, I'm going to do something interesting and fast. When pro per complaints are filed and a pro per answer is filed, you know you have two pro per litigants. You immediately set up for a case management conference. You put the plaintiffs on this side, you put the defendants on that side. They're all pro per, and you can get those cases resolved like that quickly. Now, I wrote a thing called The Truth About Family Law. It's on my website, josephscalia.com. And what it says is very simple. Poor people are not jamming up the court system because poor people don't have assets to sort of go through these things, and they really are required to work together out of necessity. If somebody's working a shift and someone else is working another shift and they don't have daycare, they don't have the resources, they work together out of necessity. The super wealthy are not at the family court fighting over trusts and billion-dollar casinos. And the model I use is Steve Wynn. Him and his wife, with billions of dollars in assets, got divorced like that. You have a corporate lawyer, you have a tax lawyer, you have a family lawyer, and it all got resolved. The bulk of the people jamming up the family court system are the middle class, the people who have some resources and want to go down there and have a big drama scene. And part of my job as the judge is to get these people on the track that they need to get onto towards settlement. That's what needs to be done. The pro pers can be resolved because they really don't want to miss work to hang out at the courthouse all day. They need, and most of those people that they can understand, they can get resolutions, they can move forward. The super wealthy you're never going to see, It's that middle class in the middle, which is sort of jamming up the system because they're going down and trying to get their pound of blood. And it's important for a judge to know which is which and get these people on the track that they need to get to. And this is how I describe it to people. It's like running through a jungle or running through a forest. If you know what that path is, you can get through very quickly. If your lawyer or your judge lets that case get off track in the jungle, there could be quicksand, there could be a wild animal, there could be a cliff, there could be anything. And the amount of time, effort, and energy that it takes to get that case back on track, it's 3 times the work or 5 times the work. An experienced judge, like an experienced lawyer, will keep that track moving forward and getting those people out of court. And as a side note, we're lawyers, so we think about things in legal terms. Most litigants don't think about things in legal terms. They are operating out of fear, they're operating out of ignorance, they're operating out of feelings of vulnerability. They're not rational. And part of our job is to make sure that they calm down, understand the world's not over, and move towards the new stage of their life. And that's sort of what we have to do without being social workers and micromanaging everything. Ultimately, it's up to the litigants.
Linda.
I have a lot of experience dealing with pro se litigants as an alternate judge for the city of Las Vegas and a justice of the peace pro tem. It's a different animal. It requires a little bit more patience and a different mindset than when you're dealing with a case with 2 lawyers. When we talk about legal education for the community, the Boyd School of Law has wonderful programs, and actually yesterday we serviced and led classes for over 500 people from the community. They offer classes in conjunction with Nevada Legal Services throughout the week and on the weekends at different times to accommodate everybody's different schedule. They have lots of family law classes. In addition, the law school also opened their mediation clinic where law students do mediations out of the family court. We need more judges in family court to utilize that service. There's a lot of services there that are open. And the more that the school works with the bench over at family court, the more clinics there's available, more students eager to help people and negotiate cases, and at little or no cost to the court system or the community.
We've been asking, and I'm sorry, does anybody else want to jump in? Freddie?
Yeah, it's more like personal thing than a legal thing. I mean, right now, none of you are in government, so if elected, I mean, you're dealing with families, right? No matter what decision you make, you are going to divide the family, or they are already divided. Half of the family will be happy, half will be miserable, or the rest of the family will be miserable. I mean, how will it affect you? I mean, making that decision, knowing no matter what decision you make, somebody's going to be unhappy, that. I mean,
So I guess the question is, how do you plan on coping with those kinds of stressors? Is that?
Well, something like that, because you'll be dealing with that every day. I mean, you're all human being and everything. I mean, it's just, how judges cope with that thing. I mean, do you have
and everyone will have a chance to answer.
that passion to work on that kind of thing? I mean, because if not, you are not capable of being a judge and handling those
Of course.
cases, though, to deal with that on a more personal level. I mean, you're not looking at it as just legal case closed and everything, and everybody go home and everything. Here, when they go home, half of the family will be unhappy, well, half will be happy, or everybody will be miserable.
Let me jump in.
You know what I mean?
Let me jump in on that. One of the key things is this. If you plug my name into the database, I've handled thousands of cases. I've settled a lot of cases. And one of the reasons that the judges like me down in the family court, because if there's a way to settle a case, I can find it. And how you get cases settled, and how you get people to bury the hatchet, is you find ways to align their interests in a way where they are cooperating with each other, and they might not even be aware of the fact that they're cooperating with each other. When you find out that somebody's working swing and somebody else is working grade, and right now they're having financial problems, you can work it out in a way where, while one's working, the other parent is watching the child. There are sort of methodologies that you gain from experience where you can get people to cooperate in ways. Another way to do it is financially. And I'll give you an example. I had a case not too long ago where the judge gave the wife the house and gave the father the mortgage. But there was no kicker, meaning that if she didn't make the mortgage, his credit would get ruined. And what that ruling did was it created all the wrong incentives. It created an incentive for her to mess around with the mortgage payment. He had no remedy because he couldn't buy another house. See, that's bad judicial decision. A good judicial decision says, okay, ma'am, the house has no equity. You're going to live in the house. That's fine. But if you are one day late and you impact his credit, guess what? You're out. And guess what happens? She now has an incentive to keep the mortgage paid on time, not because she's going to dangle it over his head, but because she's going to say, you know what? If I don't do this, I'm responsible. And those are the only things that you can learn by being there. Being a municipal court pro tem is a different animal. That's like saying, I went to the zoo and therefore I'm a vet. Those are different things. In family court cases, everybody plays prosecutor. You know, criminal court, you have a prosecutor, you have a defendant, everybody knows what the role is. In family court, everybody's playing offensive. Nobody's playing defense. And you've got to get people to sort of tone it down because they think that their case is the worst one and no one's ever heard this before. When in reality, we've heard the same fact pattern probably about 500 times. It's the same fact pattern that comes in every 8th case. You know, he's having an affair, she's having an affair. I mean, there are methodologies and there are fact patterns that you only get really good at by doing it. There is no replacement for experience. This is looking at a picture of a beach and going to a beach. It's two different things. And if you know what you're doing, you can do it.
And Rebecca, you were waving your hand furiously. Everyone will get a chance to address that.
Coming in a different direction from
Yes,
where
good.
we just went, but you were asking about personally coping. I was just talking about I went to hot yoga this morning. I do things to try to get my mind outside of it, to give my mind a break.
Right, because
We go to the
it-
same studio.
Because,
Yeah.
Just
because,
so-
A lovely mental
Wait,
image. Thank
there
you,
we go.
Joe. I appreciate that.
Yeah. I have a big sign in my office. It says no whining allowed. I mean, you can't, you've got to find a little bit of humor in it, a little bit of try to pass on a little bit of that to folks so that they take it, I don't want to say take it less serious, it is serious, but to try to get them to understand their life isn't going to end. It's being the kind of judge who's going to read everything and to offer folks a decision that's based on facts that come out of their case. I've found that when people, even if they don't like what the result is, if they feel like the judge listened, paid attention, knew what was going on and was fair in their decision, they can accept it even when it went against them. So people end up being a little bit less traumatized by the whole thing.
Let me jump in if I might. I worked for a district court judge, Tom O'Donnell, and at that time judges did civil, criminal, and divorces. And the judge I worked for cared passionately for people and families. So he put family law cases above the $1 million cases in terms of his calendar. He said, at the end of the day, if I feel in my heart I've made the right decision, and the litigants probably think they've both been screwed, then I probably did a good job. My wife was a cancer nurse at UNC, and she cares passionately for her job, and she loses patience, but that doesn't end her passion. I care passionately about the law and doing the right thing. I would agree with all these people. You have to find a way to relieve the stress. And when my kids were little, I coached Little League and soccer and tennis and you name it. Now, I take long walks with the dogs or I find other ways to relieve the stress. A family law judge inevitably has a lot of stress, but you have to do it productively, and yelling at the litigants is not a productive way to be a judge. I will not yell at litigants. They are already stressed.
Linda, how often are you going to yell at litigants?
I'm not a big yeller.
Okay.
I think I ask lots of questions and help people to resolve, or feel like they have a stake in the outcome and that they really had a big part to play in that outcome. And that helps people feel like they've been heard, that the judge understood them, that they had a part in the resolution. It makes things easier for everyone.
Okay. Well, and regarding the original question, I think was more coping mechanisms. If elected, how do you plan on, I guess, escaping from an obviously stressful job.
I think we all have stressful jobs now as lawyers and judges, and we each have our own coping mechanism. I have a little girl, and she's 6, and we do a lot of dance classes, and I help out a lot in the classroom, and those things ground me and are a good reminder of what's the most important.